Hey everyone, it is Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I want to talk about optimism or pessimism in comics because this seems to be a reoccurring trend. So this article came out, what was this, the 17th? I hadn't seen this, but I'm seeing it get a little bit of buzz on Twitter. Comics reinvented themselves in 2020 in order to survive. And this isn't really a retrospective. This is more of looking into the future, how comics are positioned now and how we ought to view them. So we'll get into that. First off, Downcast Rise and Fall is ending. I'm closing this campaign. And that is because, at the end of the year, that's closing. So the end of the week. So back it if you're interested in getting these copies of Volume 1, Volume 2. It's going to be changing. So the next is Downcast through Alterna. If you'd like to get the single issues, this is a good way to go, especially if you're one of the people that says, hey, crowdfunding's really expensive. I did this so that you could get a story. This is proof of concept. So it's only $1.99. You can pre-order on Alterna right now. Fatal's on Indiegogo, which look at this, refreshing it. I think, we're just so close to $90,000. We're only a few dollars away. Crazy. Thanks everybody for backing. I think definitely one more backer will get us to 90,000. It'll also get us to 1750 backers. So those are both nice round numbers. And then I'll have the GoFundMe. I have too much stuff, guys. This is why I'm getting rid of Downcast. We hit $5,000. Thank you so much. I know the Snogans family appreciates this. We're going to just put this to work immediately. This is going to be very nice to take the edge off of some of the burden of cancer bills. So appreciate this so much. All right, into the story. Comics reinvented themselves in 2020 in order to survive. So this is an article about how comics rose to the challenge. And what I have come to realize is that really what this is a comic, or what this article is about, is being optimistic or pessimistic about comics. Now, full disclosure, when you have a YouTube channel, there's massive incentive to be pessimistic about everything because that's what makes people watch your videos. Generally speaking, I'm not a very pessimistic person, but there's this ever-present incentive to be pessimistic. I've heard many other YouTubers mention it. Some don't address it head on. I'm not talking about comics YouTubers all over. But it's there. If it bleeds, it leads. It's true in the news media, and it's true in new media. It's the same thing. And so sometimes I like to take a step back and look at a situation and try to think, am I being pessimistic for the sake of being pessimistic? I know that there are some videos I've done that absolutely, when I look at them in hindsight, I think, yeah, man, I was just, I guess, looking for a hot take. And so, then again, you're incentivized to be pessimistic. With the comic book industry, it's difficult to really get down to what the truth of the matter is because there are also a large number of people, especially in comics media, that are overly optimistic because they want to work in comics. If you're nice to the right people, you will get a shot, or you could have a shot to work in comics. That's not the right incentive. If you want to be somebody that's reporting on comics, the goal, hopefully, would be to be a good reporter, a good blogger. You're reporting on comics. You're telling the story. Not that you want to work in comics, and so you have to pat the right backs, make the right people happy, adopt the correct narrative. Anyway, having said that, this article, while it's trying to be very, optimistic about comics, I'm glad that they address some of the very specific issues that happened. And Dogman basically is what this comes down to. So first, I'm going to get that out of the way. They said 2020 was a bad year, but at the same time, comics sold better. They ended up recovering. Not that they sold better. They ended up recovering. They had a good year. And a lot of that was due to graphic novels. They had such a big increase. They admitted, though, that graphic novels include Dogman. Now, I have a question as far as this is concerned. We spend so much time talking about distributors and comics. That was a big landmark issue for 2020 in that Diamond shut its doors. No more comics could be distributed. Why that initial lockdown was so important, and every other lockdown since in various states has not been so important, I don't know why, but that's what happened. I was there. We were all there. So Diamond shut down. And when DC, this was another thing from this article that they pointed to, DC was forced to go to another distributor. Diamond shut down, DC, which led DC Comics to effectively will 2 new distributors into the market. That broke up the monopoly that everyone complained about for the longest time. But then I saw comic shops, I saw my local comic shop posting that they were selling all DC Comics off. I think things have probably changed by now and they've come to terms with it. But initially, a lot of people were very upset with DC Comics. I remember, because of not having this blind loyalty toward Diamond, who was shutting down the entire industry single-handedly. All right. So, why is it that we will consider the Dogman books such a success, such a huge thing, and we'll count those? Like, we're going to claim those, even though Dogman books are not being, they're not playing by the same rules. They're not being sold exclusively through Diamond. They're being sold through every major book retailer. They're being sold like regular books. They're not even formatted the same as the rest of the comic book industry. They're doing their own thing, but we are happy to claim those numbers because it makes sales numbers look better. So my question is, am I being pessimistic? Am I being pessimistic for the sake of being pessimistic when I say that those sales numbers probably shouldn't count? They probably shouldn't be a good indicator for the health of this industry that we've been talking so much about, the direct market industry we've spent, again, this entire article talking about. Are we going to be counting Dogman books, graphic novels that are sold to kids through places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble? Are there still Barnes & Noble around? I don't know. They're not being published through any regular comic book publisher. It's being published through a mainstream publisher. Okay? Is that overly optimistic to count that? Are we trying to pump up our numbers? Or am I being pessimistic to say that doesn't count? All right, so that's the first thing. Second thing, we get into crowdfunding. That was another landmark of 2020. Why is it at the same time that we're so happy to claim Dogman sales, we will not count Indiegogo sales? Why is that? I'm so baffled by this. Now remember, 2020 was the year that once Sean Gordon Murphy started crowdfunding, a lot of people were very upset, saying it was not a good look. It was a bad time. To me, it's the only time, the best time to be showing that you can sell comic books during a time when comic books were not allowed to be sold. Why is it that Indiegogo comics are not counted? Why is it that, we go through it, hey, things changed. One of those big changes was this anthology. Not like there's not been anthologies before. Another one was people like Scott Snyder and Jeff Lemire. They were launching Kickstarter campaigns. Okay. That's interesting. That's notable, but why not also include that 2020 was the year for, massive, massive gains on Indiegogo as far as comic book sales go? How many numbers of backers have gone there? And why do we willfully ignore Indiegogo sales? I don't understand that. So is that being very pessimistic or optimistic to say that, hey, there's a whole bunch of other sales here that you're totally ignoring? If you want to look good, you could be counting all these comic sales. There really is something huge going on, and I don't understand how much longer can we go on ignoring what is happening in independent comics because of Comicsgate, because of Indiegogo. It's at least once a day I get messages from email or a Twitter message or something from somebody saying, hey, I want to crowdfund a new comic. How do I do it? Can I get some advice? I get that question all the time, almost every single day. It's unprecedented how new creators can get in and give it a shot, but also established creators. Creators that are building successful careers based off of Indiegogo. But why are we ignoring that then? I don't understand it. All right, then they go into some of the philanthropy, which I didn't hear a lot about this, but Creators for Comics campaign, I did see some people were posting original art that they were selling for it on Twitter. This is primarily what went down. And they raised over $400,000 for comic book shops across America. That's great. Okay, so last section of this article is, and it paid off. So the way that they structured this article was, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's what creators and publishers and comic book shops were forced to do to adapt, and here's the result. And the result is that it paid off, at least according to Polygon. This remains to be determined as far as I'm concerned. If some of the changes that were made by publishers continue, then I think that's a good thing. If we fall back into the same old problems, the same issues that have been plaguing the industry, then I don't think anything has changed. It won't have mattered. Comics still exist, so that's a win. I'm happy that comics are being published. I'm happy that Marvel is publishing comics. I'm happy that DC is publishing comics. All right, so here's the admission here. It certainly didn't hurt that some of the pillars of the comic book world maintained their positions of strength. Okay, Dav Pilkey was one. This is the Dogman writer. Was still the comic equivalent of the Beatles. Again, how did that help comic book shops? Some comic book shops sell Dogman books, I'm sure, but that's not where Dogman's getting their sales. I mean, let's be real. That's not at all where Dogman's making sales. Yeah, and associated titles eager kids everywhere. All age audiences as a whole was a monster. As stalwarts like Scholastic Graphics, again, that did not help. That did not help comic book shops. We're not talking about the direct market at all. Why was there such an attachment to Diamond if these are the numbers that we're counting? Let's see. Random House, again. Random House graphic novels debuted with a Dynamite lineup. Okay, again. Random House is not distributing graphic novels through Diamond. That's not how it's working. I mean, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you can get some through Diamond, but Random House has other distribution methods besides Diamond. They're not playing by the same rules. So if anything, the year 2020 has highlighted the current set of rules that we have, the stigma that you have to work with Diamond, otherwise you will be ostracized. And if Diamond closes its doors, guess you are too. That didn't work. That's what didn't work. Where are the best sales numbers? Where are these pillars of the comics world maintaining good numbers? They're not with Diamond or the direct market. Okay, so I mean, is that optimistic? Or pessimistic? You could say maybe we ought to look at some other stuff. Maybe Diamond isn't the answer. Maybe there's some other better answers for making sales, because clearly that's not where the bounce back came from. Manga continued to soar. Again, they're not playing by the same rules, self-imposed rules that the traditional American comic book industry has to deal with. Okay, I think I made my point. So, it was a difficult year. Yes. You could look at this in two ways. I think that it's optimistic to say that what the comic book industry had been doing has been proven to not be very resilient. And the good thing we could take from that is say there's a better way to do it. And that would be uh, broadening things, not putting all your eggs in one basket. And for goodness sakes, continue to sell books despite anything. That's the one advantage we have. You can be socially distant and still read a comic book and still purchase a comic book. You've got to find a way to do that. I think retailers figured it out, in a big way. Retailers figured it out, but how do we adapt going forward? How do we make the comic book industry more resilient? I think it's absolutely possible. I think it's a necessity, in fact. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Appreciate all your input, and I'll see you in the next video.